Dear ambitious African, this is your host, Secho. In this podcast, we'll discuss everything about our journeys and experiences towards achieving our goals for life and work as phenomenal change leaders in our varied communities. We'll feature other ambitious Africans crushing it through arts, social activism, tech innovations, entrepreneurship, and positive lifestyle and holistic well-being. We are the generation that is redefining Africa as we know it, and as an ambitious African, now is the time to get involved. Give us your feedback and ideas for our next podcast, and let's keep the conversations going. See you inside. Hello, good day. I hope you've been having an amazing day today. This is Secho, and this is the Ambitious Africans podcast. My day has been very chilled today. I think I'm really easing into the new year, and I'm very excited about the year, but in a more calm way. I don't even know why, but yes, a lot of things have been crossing my mind over the last couple of days, and I've been so eager to come and tell you about it because I feel like it would be something you might also have thought about, or things you're also experiencing. Today I want to talk about different things. There's so many things I want to talk about, so maybe we can see how far we get along today, and then in subsequent days we'll talk about the other things, because I do not intend keeping you here for long. However, there are 3 things I want to talk about, or 3 titles that's already in my mind. One is living in your enoughness. The second is how do you balance being talented and yet you're living in the trenches. And then the third one was really understanding societal expectations and what unpacking that looks like as you're aging, and that would be through my own experience. But I want to give each of these topics its own space. So let's see how far we get along today. Today I want to talk about living in your enoughness, and I'll begin with a story. So a couple of years ago, this was 2013, I had finished an exam, and the results of some of the papers were not so great. So everybody was quite disappointed. I was super disappointed. I was super disappointed. So, in the midst of that, I'm sure, my parents, my siblings, and knowing that it was a big exam that I should or could use, I would be needing to progress my education. It became like, a big conversation. And what it really meant for me, it was just, now that I look at it, looking back, it was just a failure of an exam. But then it was not just a failure of an exam, it was a big deal. So in one of the conversations with my sister's husband, he asked me a question that has stayed with me for, we're in 2026, the past 13 years. Yes. So he asks me about my results. I tell him, and he's like, "Oh, wow. Did you feel like you did your best in that exam? Do you feel like you gave off your best?" And I told him yes. And on that day when I was telling him yes, I was telling him yes, not fully aware of what that yes meant for me, or what it really meant in essence, what the question I was responding to meant. And so there were twofold to it: understanding the depth of the question and also understanding the depth of my response. So I said yes because in the moment I did feel like I gave my best. And years would go on since that incident. Like I said, that question has stayed with me all these years, but there were some years, especially the first few years after that conversation, as I kept reflecting on it, I would look back and say, I shouldn't have said yes. I should have said no because, I know I had it in me. I had the potential to do good, to do better than I did, whatever. So maybe and in the space of saying, oh, actually, maybe I should have said I didn't do my best because obviously I failed one of my papers. So why did I say yes? Just another perspective of that since we've been on perspective shifts these past few days. But in recent years, I've been thinking about that question a lot, and I am beginning to understand what younger Secho meant by that yes, and respecting her response at the time and what it meant for her to say yes. What do I mean by that? I mean that at the time, it was the best I could do with the resources I had, with the quality of tuition I got from my school, with the level of exposure that I got, with the support that I received, with my determination to succeed, with my seriousness in studying, all of that, merging all of that, it was the best that I could do. And that is why in recent times I have more grace over the mid Secho who was beating younger Secho up about why did you say yes when it should have been a no. And I'm like, to be honest, I didn't go to the greatest of schools. I've had friends who tell me what they were doing during their time in school, the extra classes they had, the prep exams they were doing, and all of that. And so based on that, I could see how come they did well in their exams. But I didn't have any of that. And I think about all the things that I didn't have that I still found a way to do good. And I'm like, come on, I really did my best, to be honest. I mean, I could have done better, but as far as I knew then, I did my best. And that has been the beginning of this journey, this, I could say, 13-year-old journey of finding my enoughness, finding what it means to say I have done my best, and actually accepting that I have truly done my best. And it's in three folds. The first is one with regards to externally defining what my best should mean. The second fold is internally understanding what my best should mean. And then the most recent installation is merging the two expectations of internal and external best and striking a balance between the two. I'm going to explain all of that. So let's take the first external definition of doing my best. There's so many theories, speeches, admonitions, even sermons out there that encourages us to pursue our very best. Heck, in Ghana, where I'm from, I remember in in preschool or nursery school or kindergarten, there's this rhyme they taught us. It goes like, good, better, best. May I never rest until my good is better and my better best. It's such a good rhyme. It's such a good rhyme. I'm going to repeat it. Good, better, best. May I never rest until my good is better and my better best. Isn't it so amazing? It's so amazing. A thought process, a discipline, a pledge to make oneself to always continue to go the extra mile and do their very best. And so by that external definition of what best is, we say, here are some of the ways people are doing their best. Your best should look like theirs. So when you're in a class and they're ranking students during the end of the term, is something they do also in Ghana. if they're ranking students, they would say this person had the first position, this person had the second, and there would even be people clapping. They will announce it during school assembly. I don't know if I'm sure schools in Ghana still do school assembly. I don't know, maybe in your country if they do or they don't, or if they've ever had. But there's this assembly in the mornings, especially on the last day when school is about to go on vacation. They would list out all the best students. There's speech and prize giving day where they're announcing all the different winners of different prizes. And by that, society is telling you this is what best looks like. Best looks like the highest grades possible in your class, in your cohort. And that is what you should always aim for. And that is the definition of best. And so whether it is your capacity to meet it or not, it is the definition of best. So you must strive to get there. And in adulthood, that ranking hasn't changed. It goes from subtle, oh, you must be competitive, you must be ambitious, you must want better things, you must want luxury, because your friends in your cohort are having those same things. So that is the definition of best. They are working hard, they're grinding, they're hustling. It's a numbers game and they're putting in the work, and it's all those adrenaline rushed notions of what best should mean. And so that is society's way of telling you what best should look like. Best can look like being the most sought after fashion designer in your industry. Best should mean the most presentable in your industry. Best should mean the most skilled in your industry. Best should mean the most followed in your industry. Best should mean the most sold out in your industry, and so on and so forth. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but there is also everything wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with it because best, by definition, externally gives society an easy, lazy point of reference in assessing things. There's something called cognitive miser. So human beings are cognitive misers. A miser is somebody who's quite stingy, right? So when we say someone is, we experience what we call, I don't know what the noun form of it will be, but if somebody is a cognitive miser, for example, it means that we are trained, or that person is trained in a way that they do not exert a lot of thought and thinking into what they're doing. They simply go by what is easy on the brain. It goes by saying, I don't want to think so much. If they tell me vitamin C is good, I'm going to take it because they said it's good. I don't want to do any research. I don't need to do any research. And so we put things and people in place to make sure that we can continue having that that status as cognitive misers. We are inherently cognitive misers. We are very stingy with our brain cells, especially things that require making a decision. If we want to make a decision, we want to do it without spending a lot of thought and mind to it, right? And so by virtue of us being cognitive misers, it means that when we have these externally designed definitions of best, it makes it easier on our brain to say, you know what, it should just look like this. Whatever all these, first in class, best in the industry, most sold out, most presentable. Yeah, if it looks like any of this, surely the best. And so that is what is wrong with the definition. Because we do not want to expend thought and intention to interrogating these definitions, we go by them without much apprehension. And what is wrong with this idea, or what is not wrong with this idea, is that it makes it easier for us to assess things. It makes it easier to categorize things. and it makes it easier for biases and stereotypes to emanate based on those things. Now, when I say there's also something inherently wrong with that, now I've talked about why it wasn't wrong. It's not wrong because it's easier to wrap our minds around it. Now, when I talk about why that in and of itself is wrong, it's wrong because it does not capture the full essence of the entire human experience in defining best. Because somebody's best might not be what society picked out of all the other bests that have existed before the dawn of time. And yet, instead of saying, oh, it might not look like what we already have, but it's also best, we say, if it doesn't look like what we have, it's not best. The sense of binary distinctions on whether something is best or not is quite counteractive and counterintuitive, rather, to the concept of good, better, best. And yet, we go by those understandings that if it's not like this, it's not it. And that brings me to the second level of being in your enoughness and redefining what your enoughness means. On the internal side, as a human being, when you're navigating through all these societal prescriptions on what good, better, and best is, it's sort of hierarchical. So as you're approaching decisions, you're asking yourself which one is a good decision, which one is a better decision, and which one is a best decision. Because the closer it looks to society's expectations of best, the better and the best it feels for you as a decision to make. It feels right to you. So since we are sponges and our brain, our entire interaction with the world is that of a sponge soaking up water, we soak up these narratives so much that they seep deep into our subconscious that we do not even realize it, because our brain doesn't want to expend so much thought into making some of these decisions on what is good or bad or best or good or better. In any scenario, we stick with what society has prescribed. But on the internal side, my own journey to understanding what the definition of best means has gone on a very long journey. It has gone on a whole long road trip. Because back to the exam situation, at the time when I said I had done my best, I had actually done my best. But it didn't look like I had done my best with the results that came. Because out of context, regardless of what kind of school I went to, what kind of teachers I had, what kind of support I received, the fact remains we all wrote the same exams, myself and every single person in my class and cohort, and yet some did better and some did not. And so based on that, whatever I might have done, whatever how my level of determination and dedication to proving myself best is not added to the context of the real final decision of ranking my efforts as good or best. And that used to bother me a lot. Now that I think about it going back, it now makes a bit more sense why it used to bother me. I didn't even know why. I wrestled with it for the longest time in my heart and in my mind. So much that I didn't even really think much about what language could suffice to share exactly how I was feeling about these rankings, because I wasn't feeling good enough, because society says, look a certain way, speak like this, do this and do that. And my curious brain did not understand why. And so there was always a clash, always a conflict internally, so much that it would always show up in aggression. It would show up in feeling so uncomfortable in spaces. It would show up as just inner conflict, internal conflict against these prescriptions. Which brings me to right now, my own resolution around best and how that has eventually redefined what enoughness means. So these days, as I have come to the conclusion after 13 years of trying to find answers, trying to fit into the mode, and yet finding none of it works for me, I have now decided to find my own path in defining what best means. And it's by striking a balance between internal and external expectations. Because even though I am still unpacking and rebuilding my concept of these definitions, I still have to admit to myself, I still have a bit of society within me, which is fine. I don't mind because it helps me connect with everyone else. I can't possibly change my thought processes about all these things and move to space, hoping it applies there. It wouldn't. It wouldn't be the same world. It might not even be relevant there. And so all these learnings that are relevant here and now, I have to make them useful for the here and now. And so by admitting that there is still a bit of society within me, as there is a bit of me in society, I have come to the conclusion that not sometimes, not most times, but every single time, I have to come to the evolving definition of what best means for me in the moment. And so my way of striking a balance between what does the best look like to me has always come at a case-by-case basis. A couple of days ago, I spent Christmas really doing so much of schoolwork. I spent hours. I was sleeping very late nights, putting in the work, doing the research, and trying to find a way to do the best work I could in my schoolwork. And on the day that I was submitting, after I had submitted, because at this point I had submitted like almost a week ahead of schedule, I was asking myself, this one that I have now this is my Ghanaian accent coming out. If it's not already been out this entire time, this one that I have submitted my work a week in advance, is it really my best work yet? I told myself, yeah, it is my best work yet. Do you know why? Because days after, I wouldn't have said anything else that I have already said in that coursework. I wouldn't have said it any differently than I did in the coursework. And that has been my own way of striking the balance between external expectations and internal response to those external definitions. And so when we talk about living in your enoughness, it is coming to the understanding that at some point you will have to face the truth that you are truly, deeply, and objectively enough. You don't have to do too much to be loved. You don't have to do too much to be accepted. Just by being your quirky, calm, loud, vibrant, chill, lazy, all of you self, you are seriously enough. And the way to test that is to try to always configure your brain to resort to your not doing too much self in approaching things. So if you're making a decision, ask yourself, what is the internal expectation based on society's indoctrinations? What is the external expectation based on society's prescriptions? And where is my enoughness as a definition coming at play? And so you have 3 variations of that same decision you need to make. You say, okay, society says this is the way it has to be done. With my internal self, that still has a bit of society in, but has like a mix of my own flair to it, says this is how I want to do it. And my enoughness says this is really how I want to do it. I don't want to do too much. I'm not even going to try. And you have to push yourself, stretch yourself, and even intentionally trap yourself into not doing any more than that. And you do that knowing that you are meeting both internal and external expectations, even by being your enoughness, because your own thought processes, your brain, your eyes, your senses has already been trained. They have already been trained to expect and deliver a certain standard. And so there is no way when you try to be just your enough self, you are going to go below that standard. And even when you are going below that standard, your brain will trigger that, no, this is subpar work. This is not the quality of work you want to present, even as a personality trait. And so by accepting that there's that internally designed baseline by default, you realize by just sticking to it how excellently you are by yourself, how amazing you are by yourself, because you have just trained your personality as a result of these both internal and external expectations to create this baseline where you can truly call your enoughness, your definition of best, without doing too much, without stretching yourself, without bending yourself backwards, without burning out, but doing that full-heartedly, wholeheartedly. In various applications for things these days, when I'm applying for jobs, when I'm applying for opportunities, I'm always trying to default to my enoughness, because I'm trying to train my brain to say, this is what it means for me to be enough. And I didn't know what it meant for me to be enough. Every single time I was so in the zone of give your best, give your best, give your best. I never even discovered for myself what my baseline of enough was, to even know how to go beyond it. Because I disregarded all the things that's made me enough and pursued this, do your best, do your best, do your best. But how do you do your best if you don't even know where your baseline is? So these days, I'm on this exercise where I'm training my brain to stick with enough. And then, depending on what the expectation is, I know, okay, this means so much to me. This opportunity means so much to me. So I'm not going to give my enough self. My enough self is already top tier quality as it is, because I'm constantly evolving and changing and improving myself. So what I define as enough is it's not poor quality, it's great quality. But if I want to go beyond enough, I can add something and show that I really need this opportunity. I really want this opportunity. I'm really passionate about this. Is me being aware that I'm going above myself and doing it wholeheartedly with that conviction and full control on my energy and expending attention to these things. And so, for you, when will it be enough? When will you be enough for you? I want you to think about these conversations that we've been having this last couple of days. And if you have some time, think about your own ambitions. Is it enough? Where have you pegged success? Is it truly enough for you? Or you're looking at it because that's where your attention should be? For some of us, our ambitions might not even look the same after we start the exercise or the journey to enoughness. By the time we leave, we might realize perhaps we don't need flashy things. We just want a quiet ranch somewhere in Southern Africa, where in the mornings you sip good tea, look at the landscape and the horizons and the beautiful sunrise, go in, do some good work, close for the day, go on a walk, come back, have some amazing time with family, and call it a night. Like, for some of us, that's what it really is. That's what we really want. But you might never find out, or you might never discover it if you do not define enough and live in that enoughness. We're almost coming up to 30 minutes, and so I'm going to leave you. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about the 2 other topics I did have for you. In the meantime, don't forget to send in your own feedback, challenges, ideas via the form below, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us wherever you're listening to us, and give us a 5-star review. I'll see you in the next one.